Hey everybody, it's Blake Morgan, and you are listening to the Modern Customer Podcast. My guest today is Diana Brown. She's the Senior Vice President, Sales Operations and Customer Experience for XPO. XPO is a logistics company with 38,000 employees. Today we are talking about all the incredible work she's doing in customer and employee engagement. We talk about her time working at Amazon and her thoughts on how to create a compelling B2B customer experience and even how you should measure that customer experience at the leadership level. Let's get to this episode. Please enjoy Diana Brown. This episode is sponsored by Thinkific. As a business owner, you know to grow your company and retain your current customers, you need to keep them engaged. That's why I'm telling you about Thinkific Plus. It's essential. Thinkific Plus provides businesses like yours with a powerful, easy-to-use educational platform to keep your customers, vendors, partners, and employees informed and trained. So many businesses and organizations rely on Thinkific Plus. Like the company, Later, the leading Instagram platform for businesses and creators to schedule and plan their marketing strategies. Later needed a more interactive way to introduce users to their tool and features, help them find success on the platform, and apply strategies for their own businesses. They had already created content for online webinars and resources across their website, so they simply uploaded them to Thinkific Plus and had their course up and running within a week. Since launching their customer education program with Thinkific Plus, their users' adoption of new features has increased by over 450%, and their customer retention and paid plan purchases have increased over 300%. Plus, their team is happier since they're saving loads of time, no longer having to deliver live training. Thinkific Plus can help your business win too. What are you waiting for? Start educating your customers at scale with Thinkific Plus. Right now, my Modern Customer listeners get a free month of Thinkific Plus, but only when you go to my special URL, thinkific.com/modern. Start your free month of Thinkific Plus at thinkific.com/modern. Diana, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Where are you calling in from today?
Blake, thanks so much for having me. I'm in North Richland Hills in Texas, which is between Dallas and Fort Worth. It's a beautiful day here today.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I was just in Dallas at AT&T recently, and my best friend moved to Dallas, so I was so excited. I got to go to South Lake and have dinner with her, so I love coming to Dallas.
Excellent. I live in South Lake, actually, so I'm glad you were just in my stomping grounds.
I was just in your stomping ground, and I can't remember where we had brunch, but I'll have to ask her and tell you about it because it's really good. All right, well, I listened to podcasts with you on CMS Wire. I know you're out there speaking about this stuff all the time. For my audience that don't know you, you've had an incredible career trajectory with some time at Amazon and other great companies. Can you just talk about how you came to this leadership role in customer experience?
Yeah, I would be happy to. It started honestly with my first job, which was 30 years ago now, right? But coming out of college and went into consulting and was problem solving for customers with technology. I actually was hands-on. Blake did the coding and back in AS400 days. But that's really what it was solving problems for my customers and helping them use technology. And haven't looked back since then. Went and did go back to graduate school and came out and thought I wanted to do, kind of a different, more strategic consulting. So I missed tech and got back into it and spent a bunch of time in supply chain consulting and even ended up at Amazon Business, as you had seen there. But really have been at XPO now for 4 years and love it. The customer experience role was brand new created when I applied for it. So it's been a really great opportunity to influence and make sure we always have the customer at the front of how we're thinking about our business.
So I have to ask, what was more valuable for you? Was it the graduate degree or was it the time at Amazon?
Great question. At the time, I would say the graduate degree, and I think it was important. back a few years ago. I don't want to date myself too much, right? But I think it was something that I had the chance to go to UCLA, and I think that the network that I was able to build there, and really you can open some doors with that. But certainly everybody always wants to talk about Amazon, and that was an amazing experience as well. Got to work with just some great people and learned a lot there.
Yeah, I spent some time at Amazon, not working, but meeting people and doing tours, and everyone there is just very intense in a good way, very hardworking, very focused, very serious. And I mean, what they've done for this whole industry is absolutely incredible. And I live not that far from UCLA. So, when you were there, well, I just moved here to LA recently, but yes, UCLA is an awesome, awesome school. Hey, let's talk about XPO. A lot of our listeners and viewers might not know what that is, even though it's a pretty big company. Can you just talk about what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So XPO is a transportation company, and we serve, over 27,000 customers, helping them move their goods in their supply chain. So it's transportation, it's trucking, it's moving pallets, loading them on the trucks, getting them where our customers need them.
Absolutely. So when you think about customer experience, you are more of a B2B perspective.
Right.
And so you're taking what you learned at Amazon Business and applying it to XPO. Hey, let's talk about some of the challenges that perhaps you've seen in recent years. I'm sure with COVID, with supply chain, would you be able to share some of the recent challenges that you've experienced at XPO?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially with COVID, it's no secret, right, that supply chains got backed up, and sometimes there wasn't enough freight in another system, and sometimes there was way too much, right? So I think there were tons of lessons learned there, Blake, in that customers want proactive notification. They want to know what's going on at all times. It's really important to use tech to be ahead and let them know what's going on with their shipment. At the same time, in my industry, in any industry, problems can arise, right? And so that human touch and moving fast to solve those problems is super important, and just making sure you have that speed to action to put that customer first. And I still take escalation calls. It's something that I'm proud to do, and make sure that we're meeting our customers' expectations. And that's an expectation at XPO, frankly, is that you're on the phone and making sure that you're helping customers. And that's something I think will never change. I've read some of your works, and saw sea of change, constant change, changes constant. I agree with that, but you always need to be ready to serve the customer.
Yeah, and so I would imagine, just thinking about the work that you do every day and imagining, well, what are some of the challenges of moving large shipments across the country in huge trucks? I would imagine logistics, things happening on time, your drivers getting what they need, communication, making sure the drivers get enough rest. Like, are those some of the things that sound familiar in what you're dealing with every day?
Yes, absolutely. And you talked a little bit about, things that have changed, and what has changed with COVID is just even customers' availability, right? So if you think about what our customers want, they want us to pick up the shipment on time. They want to deliver it on time with everything intact, one shipment, all the pieces. They want no damages, and they want a bill, an invoice that they can pay. It's pretty straightforward, but a lot can happen in that. So imagine that a customer's not working on Wednesday afternoons anymore, and we don't know that, to go pick up and know, oh my goodness, we need to be able to know that we need to be there Thursday morning, have all of their information ready, right? And it's a lot about the technology that can connect all of those dots along the customer experience, along really that entire value chain that XPO is delivering to them.
So just as a customer, because all of us watching and listening, we all know in a way what a logistics experience is like. For example, our alarm is being fixed, so we're provided a window from 12 to 4. And well, what is the communication experience like? Do we get a text? How do we know when they're 30 minutes away? And so I think a lot of us, even if we don't work in logistics and manufacturing, could imagine the challenges that come with things happening on time, things that can go wrong, communication. How do you make sure that you are really operating at a very high efficiency, where there are, the windows are shorter and the communication is better and seamless and digital? Like, is that something that's in your purview?
So that is not all in my purview, but I will answer that what XPO is doing is building the proprietary technology so that we have everything connected, everything from the pickup and delivery routes, making sure that those are efficient, making sure that we get it routed in the best fashion through our 270 service centers, Blake, right? So a lot of that is happened in our operations team, which is, 20,000 plus people, every drivers, dock workers, customer service representatives moving the freight and talking to the customers, but governed by our technology so that we can make things very easy for them, direct the loading, make sure that they can just move very quickly when the freight comes, because this is a fast moving business.
Yeah, and just looking at your title, I think it's really interesting, Diana, that you are head of sales operations and customer experience. I would think if you put salespeople in charge of customer experience, in some areas that could go very badly, but it also would give them unique insights into selling when you're also hearing about all the problems that happen with the product. Can you just talk about if you think that it's a smart decision to have the leader of the customer experience also responsible for sales?
So I am responsible for sales operations and not sales, and I think that works very well, right? And so
Let me just
I
stop
agree
you.
with you,
What is
Blake.
the difference between sales operations and sales?
Great question. So, sales operations is a team that works on all the territory management, works on making sure sellers have enough opportunity to be successful, works on compensation plans, right? And our team brings the insights to the sales leaders on where things are working, what we can do better, very much data driven and a pragmatic approach. And I think if you were to have a sales leader whose job is to ultimately advocate for the customer no matter what, in charge of customer experience as well, I think that could be a problem, Blake. I think that you could go too far, quite honestly.
Okay. Yeah, so sales operations. So you're almost in a, I would say, shared services role for sales, support role for sales. And so is your customer also your sales leader?
Absolutely. We have sales leaders for multiple channels here, and they are my customers. And we're going through right now, after nearly the first quarter, how are things going? Where can we get better? We're going to spend 3 weeks in April just studying, and my team's bringing all the information for them to say, where do we think we can improve? What's working? What are opportunities to get better?
Absolutely. So just curious, when you say better, like what does that mean? What does better look like in an industry like yours where you're taking large shipments across the country?
Yeah, so better for us looks like, are we targeting the right customers where we have capacity, where there is growth, and where there's freight that will move through our network without being damaged, right? So that's super important when you think about how you're filling your trucks. Are things long? Are things short? Are they odd sized? Are they awkward? Those kinds of things. So really looking at that customer freight profile, but also understanding what the customer's expectations are, because large customers have very unique requirements, everything from what they expect upon pickup to information they need to get paid. And that can be a challenge for for a network like ours that operates at scale. So we really need to keep those customer requirements first and make sure that we're set up to meet their requirements.
So you are a bit disconnected from your drivers. You're not in a truck. You're not watching them work in a factory. They're out on the road all across the country. What kinds of tools are you using to be able to monitor what they're doing and get those data insights that you can serve back up to the leadership team?
Yeah, great question. So we are very big on feedback loops at XPO. So from a qualitative perspective, leaders are expected to be in the field at our service centers, even the ones that operate overnight, see how things are going, talk to the dock workers, talk to the drivers, and see what they need. But we also have a very tech-driven approach where they're scanning everything with handhelds, so we can see how things are going. We can see the time. We can see, how long that they might be waiting at a particular customer, which that's something that's growing quite a bit with all the e-commerce and trying to get into those large distribution centers. So the back-end data there are really things from an insight perspective that we can look at and see how long, some customers it takes longer to serve than others, and you need to account for that in your routing.
Yeah. And so, how much time, Dana, do you spend thinking about the future of logistics and manufacturing? Because obviously, with changes in car technology, in AI, I would imagine that that does impact you. So how much is that part of your role?
Yeah, I would say that's a shared role across our leadership team. So we have a 5-year strategic plan that calls for 6 to 8% growth, and we're looking at, where do we want to grow, how do we want to grow, and what impact will AI have, and what impact will do we think we need to be thinking about from electric vehicles all the way to autonomous driving and things like that. For us, we do a lot of very dense, very like you're stopping a lot with the pickup and delivery. So the autonomous vehicles aren't something we see in the near future, but certainly AI is going to continue to play a big role in everything we do in every industry.
Oh, interesting. So, because there's just some complication, there's stopping, like you don't see self driving coming and replacing your drivers anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. That's right. It's the a lot of stopping, a lot of we've got to do all of the unloading. You've got to go to some remote places that probably aren't quite as easy to get to, right? And it's just not those straight shots. So certainly at some point, but not something we see in the near future for us.
So, are your drivers employees or contractors?
Our drivers are employees, absolutely. And it's something that's very important to us. They're oftentimes the face of the customer. And so we really love our drivers. We have driving schools that we really teach our own team to be drivers for XPO. And Blake, their title is not just driver, it's driver sales representative. They're DSRs. They're out there very much the face of the customer. So important population for us.
So I'm just thinking about what their life is like out on the road, stopping, eating, getting rest. How do you help them to live their best life when they're doing, frankly, a really tough, physically taxing job?
Yeah, absolutely. So safety is one of our most important, probably the most important core value. So it's always safety first and making sure that we've got everything they need from delivering the freight, picking up the freight, the tools they need. Then in terms of their time, it's absolutely governed, and we have follow that very closely. And really, we spend a lot of time listening to how we can make it easier for them. I just was reading this morning. One of our tech teams was out in one of the service centers and asked for feedback about how we make it easier for them, how we can continue to just help them with their jobs. And that is the way we work here, and ask them how we can make it better for them, because no one knows better than the person doing their job.
So I'm imagining you have a driver, they're out, let's say somewhere kind of remote. Let's say they're near Las Vegas, they're in Nevada, and something happens that maybe something very uncomfortable, like, I don't know, with a rest stop or the truck or the customer, something happened. How would they get you feedback? Would they text you, email, call? How does that work?
So our drivers are in contact with the dispatchers all day long. We can see where they are on the routes. We can make sure there aren't any issues, right? They can call in if they have a challenge with a customer, right? That's the everyday kind of just way, the rhythm, right, of the way the network runs. In terms of getting feedback on particular customers, they do bring that back into the service center, which might be something that we do locally to update some contact information, update some preferences. They can work with their sales team as well, too. That sales team is very important to our customers to make sure, again, we know their requirements and we're meeting their needs, because everyone's just a little bit unique.
Okay, so you have had so much experience from different companies looking at customer experience. Leadership is a topic where customer experience at the leadership level looks different at every company. There's no one size fits all solution. What are some of the lessons learned just in your career on how to do customer experience well at the leadership level? What are some of the things that are measured? How, as far as accountability, who owns it? Who drives it? What does that look like? Do you have any tips just in some of the leadership lessons that I've just brought up?
Yes, absolutely. So if I hearken back go back to graduate school, right, and you would read all the cases, and a professor would start and say, well, what's the objective of this company? And oftentimes the person would forget, like, oh, to make money, right? Like that's what they're doing. They're not creating this great good or service, they're making money. But you only make money in this industry and in most if your customers are satisfied, they are willing to pay for the value that you provide, right? In our case, transportation services. So starting there, the voice of the customer has to be infused at the leadership level regularly. So in our executive weekly staff meetings, I have the opportunity to speak to a set of what one might call more operational metrics, but this is how our customer perceives us. How are we doing on time? How are we doing with our invoice accuracy? All of those things. And we watch those trends very closely and talk about them. Sometimes you have anomaly in 1 week and you just need to watch and wait for the second week, but we complement that with survey feedback that comes in each week as well. So we get at least 100 responses each week from our customers telling us how we're doing, right? So that is a staple in our executive meetings, and it starts there. You also need a team to share the insights, really push the information to folks that can action it. Because if we, again, go to the number of service centers we have, 270, freight is moving fast. If we have a district general manager in charge of, say, 20 different service centers, he or she may not have the time to go pull that information. So we have a team here that pushes that and says, how are we doing at a region level or a district level, which is how we're organized, really get those insights back in front of them. And then really taking the customer's feedback and celebrating when things go well, right? And that can be from a driver, that can be a customer service representative, that can be anybody. But we do take that feedback and distribute it back and celebrate it. We've got an XPO Go app that we use. We have a workplace site, lots of ways to get that word out.
Right. And so the metric that you're using, is it Net Promoter Score?
We do use Net Promoter Score, but that's one, Blake. I think that's an interesting metric, and I know it can get a little controversial. Some people love it or hate it. My perspective is that it's going to depend on who's answering it, right? And so it's very difficult to isolate that and keep it meaningful. So we use that directionally, but we complement that with our own 4 metrics on how we're doing on quality and then overall, and that's just a 1 through 10 rating. And we look at it by region, we look at it by type of customer, and then those operational metrics, which are of course, really showing the quality of our service. That's going to be the input that you need to keep those high. You need to keep the bar high on those so that the output of your service is exactly what those customers are expecting.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you don't want to 100% rely on Net Promoter.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I mean, not 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think you need to do much more than just the 1.
But it's interesting because the other metric you said is on a scale of 1 to 10 and it's quality related. But how is it different than Net Promoter?
So we go into 4 areas that we know we need to delight the customer, and we measure them individually.
Oh, okay. And are you willing to share those with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So on-time delivery, on-time pickup, right? Those are super important. The damage, are you limiting your damage to my product? Very important. Are you providing me an invoice I can pay? And what's the quality of customer service? Mm-hmm. So those are the 4 inputs that we're looking at every week.
Okay. And is there one that's more important than any of the others, or they're all equal?
So we have an overall one that we look at and trend, but I would say they really more important is going to be on the on time and damages, right? Those 2 are going to be what your customer needs. That's what they're buying from us, a damage-free on-time delivery.
And so stepping back, Diana, and just looking at market dynamics and economic trends, how much does what is happening out there affect what you guys are doing in here? Do market dynamics and economic challenges affect you or not really?
They absolutely affect us. And freight is often kind of a foreshadow for how things are going with the economy overall. So we're impacted, Blake. We can see it in terms of, folks shipping less. It might be lighter weight or it might be one less pallet. Folks still need to ship, but absolutely. And our competitors as well, if I listen to their results, it's industry-wide, right? That the volumes are, slightly slightly reduced from where they were, especially post-COVID when everyone was trying to catch up.
Interesting. So are you optimistic about the future, or are you a little concerned?
I'm very optimistic about the future, right? So there's at any time, because I support the sales team, right? I know the market out there and I know our market share. So there's opportunity to go and continue to grow wallet, right? And we have a very high quality product, our service offering, and a team that's focused on it. Our tagline is "Your Freight First," and with the feedback loops and the focus on putting the customer first, I'm very bullish.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I love that. Love to hear the positivity. Well, in the last portion of the podcast interview with you, Diana, I'd love to do some rapid fire questions. This is the fun part where our audience get to know you. Are you ready for that?
Oh, I think I'm ready, Blake.
All right, well, let's kick off with number one. What does your morning routine look like?
Morning routine is, so I have three boys, 18 and 16-year-old twins. So morning routine for me is get up and get some time before they get up, right? So get up, grab a cup of coffee, check in, see what's going on. And then I get exercise in, right? A little bit of just break for my brain. So, but up before everybody so I can have some of that quiet time. That's important.
And number two, do you have a unique leadership hack that helped get you to where you are today?
Leadership hack for me would be look around you and shamelessly steal what other people are doing well. If you think that's something that fits your style, emulate it and tell them why you think it works so well, right? I think you can be shown amazing leaders at every part of your life, not just the workplace. And so you can study it every day where you are.
What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
End of a hectic day is cooking with my family and sitting down and hearing about their days and just, catching up a little bit because we all leave the house by probably, 7:30 or so. So to come back and just regroup and if we can, some might be off to jobs or off to sports practice, right? But just check in with the family.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
Favorite leadership book? I have to say that I'm a Simon Sinek fan. I haven't read his books recently, but definitely in terms of servant leader and leaders eat last and some of those things. Those shaped my the way I lead when I was really honing my style.
I just walked by him like 3 days ago in Vegas at Adobe Summit. I have to admit, it was so surreal. I didn't want to bother him. I kicked myself later. Why didn't I ask him for a picture? But anyway, I didn't want to bother him. All right, next question. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness is going to be a day where I am just out enjoying the outdoors. Might include a hike or being with my family and listening to some music, just relaxing. I definitely enjoy being outside. I think it does something good for the soul.
I totally agree. Well, that is related to the next one. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Ooh, a mental health strategy for managing hard days. I actually recently have started doing more meditation, and I'm not quite sure on it yet, but it does help with a reset, right? And so a girlfriend and I that went to undergrad together, we talk about different ones that we use, and sometimes a good 5-minute morning just to, reset your brain and get going for the day ahead of you has been really interesting. So have to, wait a little longer to see if it's something I kick up, but really have been enjoying it recently.
What is your favorite type of vacation?
This is probably a little bit of a differing opinion in our family. My husband and I love active, right? So going out hiking, seeing places and doing things, whereas our boys like to relax. So we do both. We fit in a little bit of both.
I like that. And a couple more. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, lunch with anyone. Okay, so I have to admit, being March Madness, I'm watching a lot of basketball in my house. And so right now, it's going to be maybe of the moment answer. But right now, I would love to have lunch with Dusty May. So I don't know, many who might not know who he is, but he's the Florida Atlantic coach, an underdog. Actually went to Indiana University where I went, and so studied basketball. And I think he has done an amazing job coaching a team of folks that no one expected to get this far. So there's something there. There's something magical about what he's doing.
And if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
My outlook is move fast and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, that is just wonderful. Well, thank you, Diana. This has been really fun. And hopefully next time I'm in Dallas, we can grab coffee and go for a walk outside. But it's just been a pleasure hearing your thoughts on logistics for the Modern Customer Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Blake, and I would look forward to seeing you in Dallas when you return.
All right. Well, everybody, you have been tuning in and watching the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.